Today we're going to be looking at the Bugaboo Fox2, the second iteration of a model that I simultaneously love and hate, yet find myself helpless not to recommend to people, as its unique set of characteristics is difficult to find other places on the market. Bugaboo engineers their strollers quite differently than most other premium manufacturers, in that their pursuit of producing lightweight, small folding models with user-friendly activation mechanisms often comes at the expense of using sturdier materials, and almost always comes at the expense of simplicity with regards to internal mechanisms. Internally, especially when it comes to their iconic central fold, Bugaboo builds their models like a Swiss wind-up watch, precise but fragile, and including a far greater number of tiny interlocking spring-loaded plastic components than one finds with any other manufacturer. Despite actually really liking the original Fox, especially with regards to comparable models on the larger market, the internal complexity was our chief criticism. Now it's time to check in with the model again, to see what changes have been made, as well as to reevaluate it in relation to which lifestyle factors it will most ideally match, and to also look at how it now stands against the wider market. Let's start off with some stats. The Fox2 clocks in at right under 10 kilos, in its lightest configuration that is, and folds down to 47 by 60 by 90 centimeters with the seat attached. It can take 22 kilos in the seat and 10 kilos in its underslung shopping basket. We're going to start by talking comfort and functionality, both about the model generally, for those unacquainted with the original Fox, as well as in relation to the preceding version. In actuality, the majority of changes made to the Fox concern comfort, but I'm only going to cover those that I find functionally relevant, as extra pockets and changing the color of the rivets and stuff aren't all that important to how I review strollers. The seat dimensions of the Fox2 have not undergone any significant changes from the original Fox, and are decently sized, built to accommodate a child comfortably up until at least 3 to 3.5 years old. It will seat a child a little larger than this as well, but as with all reversible models, it's likely to get a bit cramped right at the end of your stroller use. The canopy size remains similarly unchanged, offering excellent sun coverage as a result of the standard extendable portion zipped into the rear section of most Bugaboo canopies, though they have updated the model with a mesh peekaboo window. Additional changes made to the seat include an increase in how far the bumper bar rotates when you detach it, as well as a reworking of the shape of the handle responsible for adjusting the position of the seat. This second change is actually quite nice, as it provides a more definitive sensation in the fingertips when the mechanism releases or locks into position. Textile-wise, the Fox2 maintains the standard Bugaboo-type fabrics, which are pretty high quality, and as they've always done with their flagship models, both the seat and bassinet are included with purchase, designed to fit the same frame. The method for attaching these elements has not changed from the previous model, and is a process that a lot of people criticize as complicated, mostly due to the need to attach mechanical elements to the seat frame in addition to the textiles. My personal opinion is that this isn't a big deal, since it's not that often one needs to switch from the bassinet to the seat and vice versa. But my wife says that for the cost, they shouldn't make assembling the model feel like you're building with Lego blocks. When it comes to other aspects of comfort and functionality beyond the seat and bassinet, user experience of the Fox2 is likely to be dominated by two main factors, one negative and one positive. The negative factor being how the Fox2 folds, the positive being how it drives. As far as folding is concerned, opinions out there may be mixed, but I'll tell you this, our short folding guide video for the original Fox is one of our most watched videos for the model. Changes to the folding setup were the first thing I was interested in with the Fox2, and there have been a few, which I'll cover in the mechanics. But the overall system remains the same, and it is complicated for most people. Having delved into the process for a second time now, and after studying a wealth of instructional videos from Bugaboo themselves, as well as dozens of pages of negative customer reviews online concerning the original Fox, I've come to form an opinion as to why this is. You see, a lot of people think Bugaboo has built the Fox's fold wrong, but I'm pretty convinced, especially after keeping essentially the same system for the new iteration, that Bugaboo thinks these people are just folding the model wrong. This is a bit of a funny thing about how Bugaboo designs their models, that I've so far only really touched on in our review of the Ant. But Bugaboo has very specific, pre-constructed ideas about how you will use their strollers, and they've done their darndest to take those ideas and build their models accordingly. The problem with this is that their vision is too limited. You see, coming at the Fox's fold as though it were the buffalo or the chameleon is wrong. Yes, you can lie the model down flat on the ground and unfold it, but that's not the easy way. That's not how they want you to do it. And this is why you may be having problems. Because the whole reason for the Fox's 2 points of activation is so that you can use the standing fold with the seat or bassinet attached. The reason it may feel as though it unfolds a tiny bit and then stops is because this is how they envision you removing the wheels. The reason it may feel as though it unfolds too far is that you didn't release the triggers at the right time and you're now on your way to two-wheel mode. The reason the seat or bassinet is sometimes misinterpreted as including a position where your child's head angles downwards, a fact that prompted Australian authorities to force them to alter the textiles for safety reasons, is so that the model can achieve a one-piece fold with the bassinet or with the seat reversed. Above all else, my guess is that for Bugaboo engineers, it's all about the fold. That's where they really get to nerd out designing the mechanics. So again then, from their point of view, if you don't like the Fox's fold, it's not them, it's you. If you would just get with the program and learn the Bugaboo Fox lifestyle ahead of time, you wouldn't have a problem. We'll be making a video on this eventually, by the way, showing the correct way to fold and unfold the Fox to avoid getting hung up or doing undue damage to the stroller, which is important, because the folding mechanism remains the area with the highest potential for damage on the model, especially from people who get frustrated and push it a bit harder than they should to try and will the darn thing to do what they want, and well, Swiss watch, remember? In contrast to folding, driving-wise, the Fox2 is still pretty much unmatched on the current mid-sized four-wheel swivel wheel market, though Uppababy, Jules, and Emalunga are all getting close. And in my opinion, this has something to do with the fact that the Fox2 replaced the Buffalo, which was a legitimate heavyweight, and a part of what they were trying to do was probably to replicate its terrain capabilities on a lighter chassis. For this reason, the whole structure of the Fox2 is really angled downwards towards its driving characteristics, towards much larger than average front wheels, multi-layered suspension, and a relationship between the dimensions of the footprint and the width of the handle that lead to amazing maneuverability. In fact, in a lot of respects, other than rigidity and durability, the Fox2 will tackle terrain nearly as well as most Cadillac models available these days, which is pretty amazing for its size and weight, and which is also really where its uniqueness lies. Because for people who live in pretty urban conditions but also need a bit of terrain capability for trips to the park and such, the Fox2 works awesome, since it's also light enough to carry up a flight of stairs and small enough to easily navigate tight doorways or aisles in a smaller store without hogging up all the space for other people. I'm not saying that the Fox2 is a legitimate off-road model like the Buffalo was, of course, just that the model outperforms all other models of its type in its size and weight class. Okay, let's move on to the mechanics of the Fox2 then, looking at the model from top to bottom. As usual, we're going to start by talking about the handle, the folding system, and the overall structure of the chassis. Handle-wise, the Fox2 maintains the basic structure that they've used on most of their past strollers, meaning a wraparound handle with a telescopic extension method, regulated by hacks on the underside of the upper portion of the arms, a system that goes all the way back to the shift from the Chameleon 2 to the Chameleon 3. This mechanism for regulating the height of the handle is something they've perfected for a long time, and it's rare that it develops problems without either accidents or years of wear. And in addition to this, the part that becomes damaged in these situations is one of the few components that Bugaboo makes easily available and is simple to replace. Looking at the shape of the handle overall, one thing that is very different with the Fox2 in relation to most other strollers out there is the way the arms angle outwards towards the rest of the stroller, which is wider than the handle at the top. This width relationship is the most important component, as far as I see it, in why Bugaboo advertises the Fox2 as having power steering, and definitely increases the ease of maneuvering the stroller while driving. One last note to point out with regards to the handle is that Bugaboo has changed up the height of the plastic elements and the overall curve at the top a little bit, to better protect the leather covers when using the standing fold. Okay, moving on to the folding system itself then, there are 2 points of activation, the first being at the top on the handle arms, and a second pair being located on the central crossbar. With the Fox2, both of these activation mechanisms have been altered, those on the handle more substantially by being switched to the upwards facing from the downwards facing, and in the case of both pairs, the amount of pressure needed to activate them has been eased up a bit. Bugaboo describes this as an ergonomic change, to make folding easier for the consumer, but I suspect that it also has to do with rectifying a problem whereby the activation triggers, especially those on the handle, sometimes broke on the inside facing, where they hold the wire. For whatever reason though, this is a positive change. The actual folding of the model then takes place within the central bar, and since the system can be activated from both sides, involves a variety of locking positions, and also houses the primary suspension for the model, using rubber elements to absorb shocks from both the front and rear frames to limit vibrations to the handle and seat unit, this system is ridiculously complex. If you're interested in seeing how it works, we have a disassembly video on our channel, where you can see how most of the folding components interact. It's for the original Fox, but the Fox2 works in the same way. As I've already said, the complexity of the system can lead to problems, but note that even though there are a plethora of small fragile components inside, Bugaboo knows what they're doing, and the whole system is well protected provided that you A, don't overstress it, and B, know how to use it properly. Okay, we're going to look a little closer at the rear frame then. As I just mentioned, the primary suspension, at least for the rear frame, is housed in the central bar, though the shock-absorbing effect of Bugaboo's wheels, another thing they've been perfecting over years and years of models, shouldn't be dismissed. What makes the wheels so great, in my opinion, is a combination of using foam-filled tires for minimum hassle and maximum longevity, and more importantly, the inclusion of a raised ridge that runs down the center of their wheels. This raised ridge serves multiple functions. It acts to slow wear on the wider body of the tires. Its far thinner surface area reduces jumps and jitters from bumpy terrain, and it decreases how much force is needed to steer the stroller by reducing the surface area dragging on the ground as you turn your stroller. The other major element on the rear frame is of course the brake system, referred to in one of the Fox2's instructional videos on Bugaboo's website as a ballpoint brake, because I'm assuming it clicks on and off like a ballpoint pen. My criticisms of the system remain unchanged from my review of the original Fox. It's nifty as long as it's working, and in all fairness, I still haven't seen a lot of problems with the system, but I still feel that in the long run, the sheer number of tiny spring-loaded components needed to run the system are going to give it problems, especially if people aren't cleaning out dirt and grit and lubricating it every so often, which most people don't do. It might take another year or two, but I prophesize a serious headache coming with this system for the good folks at Bugaboo's customer service department. We're going to have a closer look at the front frame then. Unlike the rear wheels, the front forks of the Fox2 hold their own pretty fat suspension springs, which is pretty standard for swivel wheel models, though I would like to say that they're not always done in as hefty a manner as they are on the Fox2. And this suspension, combined with the larger than average front wheels with those signature tires, really help the model get up and over stuff. The front wheels have a swivel lock, of course, which has not changed from the previous version, but like the brake, it's also one of those elements that I suspect may develop problems over time. In this case, simply because the system is built in somewhat small proportions, and in the long run, maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe sooner, there's just not a lot of surface area on the locking peg to accommodate for wear. As far as how the axles of the front forks lock into the front housings, there are 2 points at which the forks are held horizontally. The actual locking point at the top of the axle, and a wider rim at the bottom of the axle fitting into a sort of cup at the entrance to the housings. So far, this has proven to be a sufficient system to protect against the axles wearing out the housings, though there have been a few complaints about difficulty getting the wheels to turn here and there, so my guess is that a bit of thicker silicone-based lubricant is a good idea to keep things running smoothly. So, should you buy the Fox2? If you watched through the whole video, then it's probably clear by now that there are a number of things on the model that I'm not a huge fan of. And yet, as I mentioned at the start, I find it really hard not to recommend the model to people with a certain lifestyle, regardless of these factors. The chief reason for this is that combination of a lighter weight, mid-sized stroller with exceptional terrain capability for its size, and that also has a reversible seat. Over the past couple of months, we've been picking up the pace on our Patreon page, and one of the chief things we've been doing there is providing personalized consultations to help people find the right stroller for their various conditions. And these qualities on the Fox2 come up a lot. Sometimes they're negotiable, and I steer people towards a slightly smaller, though a little sturdier model like the Cruise V2, a larger model like the Trails, or even a Baby Jogger 3-wheeler. But for a lot of people, the Fox2 is just right, and that's simply all there is to it. In any case, we hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, we ask that you subscribe, as it helps us to continue making videos in the future. In addition, if you are currently shopping for a stroller, we have a buyer's guide on our Patreon page which lists a wide range of models that we recommend, with a lot of technical and lifestyle-related information. If you're interested, you can find it by following the link in the description below. Thank you.